That night, in a quiet and nearly deserted hospital, Mrs. Mai lay still on her bed. The small patient room was dimly lit, with shadows softly dancing on the walls. The only sounds breaking the silence were the gentle beeping of medical equipment, a rhythmic reminder of life's fragility. The room felt both peaceful and melancholic. The faint hum of machines filled the space, creating an atmosphere of solitude. Outside, the night stretched on endlessly, with the occasional gust of wind brushing against the window. Mrs. Mai's family had gone home for the night, leaving her to rest. They had been there all day, their faces etched with worry and love. But now the room was empty except for her. It was a moment of profound stillness, where the weight of time seemed to hang in the air. She lay quietly, her frail hands resting on the blanket. Her breathing was shallow but steady, each breath a delicate thread connecting her to the present. She gazed softly at the ceiling, her thoughts drifting like the faint breeze outside. The loneliness of the room didn't seem to bother her. Instead, there was a strange calmness in the stillness, as if she had accepted this quiet moment as part of her journey. The faint glow from the small bedside lamp cast a warm light, giving the room an almost ethereal quality. It was a night like no other, a night filled with the quiet hum of life, the stillness of time, and the unspoken understanding that this moment was hers alone to hold. Suddenly something unusual happened. In the quiet hospital room, a delicate white butterfly appeared, its fragile wings shimmering faintly in the dim light. It fluttered softly, gracefully circling the room. The oddity of the moment wasn't lost. It was impossible to ignore. The windows were tightly shut, the doors securely closed. There was no way the butterfly could have entered. Yet there it was, moving slowly, almost deliberately, as if it were searching for something or someone. The stillness of the room seemed to amplify its presence. The gentle hum of the medical equipment faded into the background, replaced by the faint whisper of the butterfly's wings as it danced through the air. Its movements were calm, deliberate, and strangely comforting, like a silent message floating on unseen currents. For a moment, the room felt different, no longer just a clinical space filled with machines and sterile walls, but a space imbued with a quiet, otherworldly energy. The butterfly continued to glide, its small shadow flickering on the walls, cast by the bedside lamp. Its flight pattern seemed almost intentional, as if it carried a purpose unknown to anyone else. It hovered near the bed, then drifted toward the window before returning to the center of the room. There was something poetic, even serene, in its movements, like a symbol of life, delicate and fleeting, yet filled with meaning. The presence of the butterfly didn't feel intrusive or unsettling. Instead, it brought a strange sense of peace, as if it belonged there, as if it had come to fulfill some quiet role in this sacred moment. The butterfly fluttered gracefully around the room, its movements slow and deliberate, as if guided by an invisible force. Finally, it descended gently, landing on Mrs. Mai's frail hand. Its delicate wings quivered slightly, reflecting the soft glow of the bedside lamp. Mrs. Mai, who had been lying still, suddenly stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, and for a moment she seemed disoriented. Then her gaze fell on the butterfly resting on her hand. Her expression softened, and something profound flickered in her eyes, an emotion that was hard to describe. It wasn't surprise or fear, but rather recognition, as if she had been expecting this fragile visitor all along. She studied the butterfly intently, her fingers remaining motionless, careful not to disturb its gentle presence. There was a strange familiarity in the way she looked at it, as though it carried a memory or a message only she could understand. A quiet smile spread across her lips, faint but filled with warmth. In that moment, the atmosphere in the room shifted. The cold sterility of the hospital room seemed to fade, replaced by an almost tangible sense of warmth and peace. The hum of the medical equipment in the background seemed to recede, leaving a serene silence in its wake. Mrs. Mai's breathing grew calmer, her chest rising and falling gently. Her gaze remained fixed on the butterfly, her smile lingering as if it brought her a sense of comfort and understanding. To her, this tiny creature wasn't just a butterfly. It was something more, something symbolic, as if it carried with it the presence of a loved one or a whisper from a distant place. The butterfly stayed there for what felt like an eternity, unmoving, as if it too understood the significance of the moment. It was a connection, quiet yet profound, between the frail woman and the ethereal visitor. The warmth in the room didn't come from the lamp or the thin blanket covering Mrs. Mai. It came from the unspoken bond shared between her and the butterfly. In those few moments, the hospital room became a sanctuary of quiet beauty, a place where life's fragility met its deeper meaning. The next morning, Mrs. Mai's family returned to the hospital. The early sunlight filtered gently through the curtains, casting a soft glow across the room. As they entered, they immediately noticed the stillness. The butterfly, which had so mysteriously appeared the night before, was gone. Yet the room didn't feel empty. It was as though its presence had left behind something intangible but deeply felt. The family members exchanged quiet glances, sensing an unusual tranquility in the air. It wasn't just the natural calm of the morning or the lack of activity in the hospital. It was something else entirely, an overwhelming sense of peace that enveloped the small space. The bed, neatly arranged, seemed to radiate warmth despite its emptiness. On the bedside table, a small framed photo of Mrs. Mai and her loved ones stood as a gentle reminder of the bonds they shared. Beside it, a vase with fresh flowers added a touch of life to the otherwise quiet room. Each member of the family took a moment to absorb the scene. There was no sign of the butterfly that had so captivated their attention, but its absence only heightened the mysterious calm that lingered. It was as if the butterfly had been a messenger, a silent yet powerful presence that delivered one final farewell from someone they loved dearly. One of the children approached the bed, lightly running their hand over the blanket as if seeking comfort. Another stood by the window, looking out at the soft morning light and the swaying branches of the trees outside. Though no words were spoken, their shared understanding was palpable. The room, which had been a place of worry and sorrow for so long, now felt transformed. It held a sense of closure, of acceptance, as though it was offering them the comfort they needed to move forward. As the family quietly gathered their belongings and prepared to leave, each carried with them the unspoken understanding that they had witnessed something profound. The butterfly, though fleeting, had left an enduring impression, a message of peace and a reminder that love transcends even the boundaries of life and death. It was a farewell without words, a quiet assurance that Mrs. Mai had found her peace, and in doing so, had gifted her family with a sense of serenity that would remain with them long after they left that small hospital room. The family sat together in the quiet hospital room, the morning light streaming gently through the window. Although the butterfly that had so mysteriously appeared the night before was now gone, its presence lingered in their thoughts. It wasn't just a fleeting visit. It felt like something far more meaningful. One of the children spoke softly, breaking the reflective silence. "Do you think it was more than just a butterfly?" they asked, their voice filled with wonder. Another nodded slowly, their gaze fixed on the empty windowsill. "It's strange, isn't it? How it appeared just as she took her final breath. It stayed with her, as if it was waiting for the right moment." The family couldn't help but believe that the butterfly carried the spirit of someone they had all loved, someone who had come to guide Mrs. Mai on her final journey. Perhaps it was her late husband, a sibling or a friend long departed. Whoever it was, the butterfly seemed to carry a message. She was not alone in her passage to the next world. As they shared their thoughts, the family felt a deep sense of connection to the moment. It wasn't just about the butterfly's mysterious visit. It was about what it symbolized. The delicate wings, moving gracefully through the air, represented something eternal, an invisible bond between the living and the departed. "It's almost like she was telling us goodbye," another family member murmured, their voice filled with emotion. "The butterfly was her way of saying she's at peace now, and we should be too." The image of the butterfly flying away stayed with them. It wasn't just a part of that night. It became a symbol etched in their memories. Every detail, the way its wings glowed in the soft light, the quiet flutter of its movements, seemed to carry a message of love, reassurance, and continuity. They thought about Mrs. Mai's peaceful expression as she looked at the butterfly in her final moments. It wasn't sadness or fear on her face. It was serenity, as if she too recognized the presence of a guiding spirit. And when the butterfly finally departed, it left behind not just an empty room, but a lingering sense of peace that filled their hearts. For the family, that white butterfly became more than just an insect. It was a gentle reminder of the enduring power of love, a connection that stretched beyond the boundaries of life and death. It reminded them that even in loss, there is beauty. Even in separation, there is a bond that cannot be broken. As they left the hospital room that day, they carried with them not just the memory of Mrs. Mai, but the profound lesson that the butterfly had taught them, that love never truly fades. It transcends the visible world, whispering to us in quiet moments, reminding us that the ones we've lost are never far away. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this story. If it touched your heart, please let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever experienced something similar or have a story of your own to share? We'd love to hear from you.